Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Walker, and today we're going to talk about how to make your brand stand out from your competitors. Before we get too far into that, I want to thank our sponsors, RepairPal, for providing this episode. When we had our shop, we were part of RepairPal Certified Network. You can find out more at repairpal.com/shops. So, as far as making your brand stand out, in the marketing world, we refer to this as differentiation. And the definition of to differentiate is to ascertain what makes someone or something different. So I'll start with a question. Do you believe that your auto repair shop is the same as every other auto repair shop? Most owners don't, and they're right. As Kim and I have traveled all over the country and we visited our clients, as well as many other auto repair shops whose owners may not be our clients, but we're friends in the industry, well, we've confirmed what we already knew. There are vast differences in every shop that we've been to. They look different, they smell different, they have different operating procedures, they have different warranties, they have different levels of cleanliness. The people have different levels of friendliness. The techs have different levels of proficiency, and they have different hourly rates, and it goes on and on and on. And, why does this even matter? Well, it's because customers will choose one repair shop over the other for a multitude of different reasons. And many times they have no idea why, because it's completely subliminal why they do it. It's your marketing's job to showcase the things that make your shop different from the others around you. And that's why we're talking about this topic today. So, we're going to talk about differentiating your brand from your brand. And just hang with me on that. All right. Because, before we get too far into this, you have to understand the difference between your brand and what your brand actually is. Because people tend to think of your brand as your logo, your colors, and your fonts. And those are all part of your brand. But I want you to think deeper about this. I used to have a partner, business partner back in the day, and he's the one that taught me what the real meaning of a brand was. And it made such a shift in the way that I think. It completely changed my mindset on what a brand was, because I was that person that when you said a brand, I thought of the logo and the fonts and colors as well. But the way that he explained what a true brand is was to tell me about Harley Davidson. And when describing their brand, he talked about the loud exhaust and the vibration from the motorcycle. He talked about wearing black leather and boots and having a bit of an attitude and swagger. He talked about the glare of the chrome, the wind in your face, and the carefree freedom that you feel when you're riding a Harley. You see, Harley Davidson doesn't sell motorcycles, they sell a feeling. And when you think of the riders of Harleys, initially you probably think of roughnecks who they'll crack a bottle over your head if you glance at them too long. And that may have been true at one time, but not so much today. Many of their customers are doctors and lawyers and other white collar professionals who they feel strangled by their Brooks Brothers shirts and shackled to their desks. But when the weekend comes, they get to be someone completely different. And that someone is what Harley Davidson sells them. So, yes, I'll talk about how you can differentiate using your logo, colors, and fonts. But the meat of this podcast is going to be about differentiating your brand from your competition. But first, you've got to understand why people buy from you now. And every time we have a kickoff meeting with a new client, we ask them how their shop is different from other shops. And they almost always have a hard time telling us. So if you don't know how your shop is different and why people choose to do business with you, start by reading your reviews. What are people saying on you, or about you, I should say, on platforms like Google, Facebook, and Yelp? I just went through a client's reviews, and some of the statements I read without scrolling very far. I wrote them down. They do quality work. They give great customer service. Pricing was better than the dealership. Communication was top notch. They fully addressed the issues that needed to be addressed. Professional, knowledgeable, courteous, and most importantly, honest. Wow, my truck has never run this good in the 10 years I've owned it. Always fair and honest. I've never had a bad experience here. Now, the shop that I'm talking about is truly a great shop. Even when you compare them to the best shops, they stand out as a step above the rest. So it didn't surprise me to see these reviews, but the most common thing that stood out to me was the perception people have about the quality of work they do. We often have to go check a shop's reviews because the owners can't tell us what sets them apart. And we see shops that are loved because they're the nicest people, because they have loaner cars, because they fix problems other shops can't, and because they're cheap. Now, I would personally never want to compete on price, but I do see shops that do it successfully and they still seem to be nicely profitable. So if that's your game plan, own it. Now, aside from your reviews, ask your favorite customers why they choose to do business with you, and they will happily tell you. Also, identify your strengths and look for ways to let your strengths differentiate you. If your shop is the cheapest in town, but your customer service skills aren't the best, don't try to differentiate on customer service until you've solidified those skills. Focus on your strengths when promoting your business, but also strengthen your weaknesses to become a more rounded shop. And once you know why people choose to do business with you, you need to decide if you're attracting the right type of clients and if it's the reason that you want new customers to be attracted to your shop. So, I talked about strengthening your weaknesses. I want to talk about this idea of becoming a four-dimensional shop. You've probably never heard of this idea because honestly, I just made it up. But I used to be part of a coaching group for male business owners. It's for men business owners, and the premise of the group was to be a four-dimensional man. And this is because so many men, especially business owners, tend to focus on being great in one area of their life. And this group broke a man's life down into these four areas: body, being, balance, and business. Body being your health and fitness, being your spiritual life and your connection to God, balance being the relationship you have with your family, and business being your business and finances. And businessmen, they often focus so hard on having a successful business that their health and their spirituality and their family life all suffer. Others will get addicted to the gym and they'll have their body right, but they ignore the other three areas. And it can work in any combination of the four areas. But this group that I was part of, it was all about having it all in life, being strong in all four areas. And the funny thing is, when these men would go from being a one or two dimensional man to being a four-dimensional man, all of the areas in their life would thrive. Or I guess what I should say is that when they started improving any particular area of their life, the others just naturally started coming up with them. It's like the flywheel in the book Good to Great. The more you improve in one area, the more you improve throughout. But for being a four-dimensional shop, I want you to take that same concept and apply it to your business and the areas that mean the most to your clients that you can be strong in. Let's define those four areas. And there may be more, but these are the things that came to my head as I was thinking about this. So those areas would be customer service, quality, and that being the quality of the work you do, the parts you use, overall product and service, timeliness, and price. So customer service, quality, timeliness, price. It is possible to have them all, and shop owners, they won't get hung up on customer service or quality because great shop owners, they don't look at these two things as optional. Where they get hung up on is timeliness and price, and that's because they equate timeliness to fast and price with cheap. And you have to have a mindset shift. Timeliness is more about doing things in the timeline that you gave when you were setting expectations. And when something happens that's going to cause you to not meet that timeline, your communication and your customer service take over to put your client at ease and to solve any problems that are being created by the inconvenience. Price, on the other hand, is more about providing a great product at a fair price, and just like timeliness, honoring the price you originally quoted. I know there are times when that's not possible, but those should be pretty rare occasions. Remember, we're talking about using your brand to differentiate your shop from your competition. All right, so hear me when I say this. All right. So if you and your team become so good at serving your clients, doing exceptionally high quality work, meeting the timelines you promised, and doing it all at a fair price, that this becomes part of your brand, part of your culture. Do you think that this would set you apart from your competition? Absolutely, it would. So I hope that this is all coming together now, what I mean by your brand versus your brand. All right. I bet you've never heard me say this. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. So we talked about being a truly great shop, a four-dimensional shop as we defined it. The next step is to help people come to know, like, and trust you, your team, and your overall brand. Just being a four-dimensional shop isn't good enough. It certainly helps people who already know you to get to like and trust you, but it doesn't do much to help people get to know you. You may think that if you do all the things we talked about above, that your clients will make you famous for it by telling their friends and family, and they will to an extent. But humans are much more wired to tell people about bad experiences than good experiences. So word of mouth, it only goes so far. You need to tell people about what's happening in your shop and in your lives through social media. You need to build that brand and push it out there for your local community to get to know. This stuff isn't rocket science, and Lord knows I talk about it in at least half of the marketing advice and content that I create, but that's because it works. You just simply do things like celebrate birthdays, work anniversaries, and important life events on social media. You share interesting repairs with your audience and make sure your knowledge and expertise shine through. When something goes wrong, show your audience how you made it right. People don't trust perfect people, but they trust imperfect people who do the right thing when things go wrong. Show off what a day in the life is like in your shop. People are really interested in this. You have to have a plan for doing this. Your once per week social post is not going to get the job done. You need to share and share pretty often, daily or even multiple times per day is optimal. All right. Core values. You've heard us talk about this many times as well. But your brand and your core values go hand in hand. Your core values, they're not just decorations to go on your waiting area walls and on your website alongside the mission statement that nobody remembers. Your core values are exactly what their name says they are. They are values that you and your team must hold at your core. They are not optional, and you don't get to pick and choose when you apply them. When your core values are in place in a shop and they're used correctly, they have no choice but to influence that brand that we're talking about. Every person on our team can tell you what our core values are. And I would bet you that many of our clients could tell you what our core values are. And that's because we integrate them into everything that we do. We talk about our core values all the time, and we reward our team and we recognize our team, and our team recognizes each other based on our core values every day. And you hear me say that everyday thing, and you're like, yeah, right, Brian. No, I'm serious. Every single day. We have something in our company called our Shieldy Awards. All right. Our core values are synergy, happiness, integrity, expansion, leadership, and dedication. And the first letter of each one of those spells out the word shield. So we have our Shieldy Awards. And the way that our Shieldy Awards work is we have a form on our website, and we've actually opened this up recently for our clients to be able to go submit a Shieldy Award also. But when someone is doing a Shieldy Award, they select a core value. There's check boxes for them to select the core value that they want to, that a particular team member represented when they did something. And every day, I'm telling you, there's not a day that goes by that we do not get a shield recognition for someone. So these things they're being used every single day in our business. When we have to make decisions, like when we have to make a tough decision, we can look to our core values, and our core values almost always help us to make that decision. Core values are some of the most valuable resources that you can have in your business, and people underestimate these, and I underestimated them when we first started out in business. I was like, core values, mission statements, vision statements, all that stuff, it's I was the one who thought that it was decorations that go on a wall. But when you have these things and you start using them in the way that they're supposed to be used, then they become your compass, and they direct you along the path that you are supposed to be on. Anyway, our core values, again, it's synergy, happiness, integrity, expansion, leadership, and dedication. And each one of these core values is highly defined. If you want to see them on our website, you can go to shopmarketingpros.com/core-values. We use this when we're hiring people. We have them go to that page. There's a video on that page where I explain all of our core values, and they have to tell us the core value that stands out the most to them. But when you truly live out your core values shine through in everything that you do, and that's ultimately what becomes your brand. That's what differentiates you from your competition. An example of how this applies to our brand is our core value of happiness. People that know us, they know that we're pretty happy people. We're nice people. We're friendly people. And that goes for everyone on our team. Like if someone doesn't fit into that, then they wouldn't last long here. They probably wouldn't get hired to begin with, but they wouldn't last long here if they were not happy, nice, and friendly. But it's also known that we don't work with jerks. If we take on a client and that client sucks the happiness out of our lives, we will fire that client. And we have done this many times. And we never like firing a client. We do our best to, determine during the discovery call that we're having with them if they're going to be someone that is just going to be a fun sponge. And if they are that fun sponge that could just suck the happiness out of a room, then we don't work with them to begin with. But there have been times that we've brought on clients and they turned out to not be the person that we thought that they were. And we fired them because of it. That happiness core value is the core value that we have used to fire every client that we have fired. I don't think that there's another core value that our clients have broken, because our core values don't have to be their core values. I guess what it really comes down to is, does working with them almost force us to have to break our core values? And anytime that that happens, we stick with our core values and we lose the client. But when we do this, when when we have a core value such as happiness and we stick by that core value and we fire a client, the impact that this has on our team is incredible. It makes our team love working at Shop Marketing Pros, and that shines through in the work that they do. It shines through in the relationships that they have with our clients, and it has become a big part of our brand. It certainly differentiates us from our competition because most of them will work with anyone willing to pay them, and that makes for miserable employees who give miserable customer service. And for many of them, that has become part of their brand. And it's unfortunate because that's differentiating them negatively, because it does work both ways. All right, outward appearance is the next thing I want to talk about. We're working our way more towards what's traditionally thought of as branding, but we're not quite there yet, though this part of the discussion may be a little closer in nature. But let's talk about outward appearance. I've been in a few shops lately, and I've seen some things that made me cringe. And these shops are supposed to be top tier shops. Some of these shops are shops that I could tell they once took pride in the way they looked. But I think the leadership is like the proverbial frog in a pot of boiling water, and they haven't noticed how dirty, dingy, and unorganized their waiting area, their shop area, and their parking lots have become. Now, if you're listening to this and I've been in your shop lately, it doesn't mean that you're one of the shops that I'm talking about, because I've also seen some amazing shops lately. As Kim and I have traveled all over the country and we've visited clients and friends in business, I have seen beautiful, amazingly clean, just great examples of shops. Okay. So don't assume that I'm talking about you. However, if you're listening into this, you're hearing what I'm saying right now, and you think for a second, could my shop be like the ones that he's talking about? Then just pause this for a minute and go walk around your shop. Go sit in the chairs that your clients sit in when they're waiting, and just look around. Don't glance. Like, really look around. Sit on the floor. All right. I know you think I'm crazy right now, but sit on the floor. Because how many parents might end up sitting on the floor with their kid? What can they see from that point of view? Are there cobwebs under the lip of the, your front service counter? Is there, dust a half inch thick under the TV stand that you wouldn't see when you're just standing up at the service counter? Because that's your view all the time, and you rarely get your customer's view. Go sit in the chairs that they wait in. Go sit on the floor in the waiting area. Go look at it from every angle. Go in the bathroom. You probably have an employee bathroom and a customer bathroom. Go in the bathroom, look around, sit on the toilet. If you have a baby changing station, lower it down and see, is it clean? Because you're probably always looking at it when it's put up. Like, really take the time to look from the different angles that your clients may be seeing things that you are not seeing things. There might be things that are just out in the wide open. There was a shop that we visited recently that their waiting area had obviously become a storage room for extra parts and just anything else that didn't have a place to go. And I can, like, this is one of them that I can tell this shop used to be a really, really nice shop. But over time, one thing gets set down and you walk past it 100 times. Then another thing gets set down and you walk past it 100 times and you stop seeing what is happening. But you know who doesn't miss that is your customers. When they walk in, they see it. This same shop that I'm talking about, Kim went to the restroom while she was there. She went in there and she refused to use the bathroom. She hung out in there for a minute, then she flushed the toilet so that they thought, and then she walked out. And she was disgusted by what she saw in there. And this was the customer bathroom. Walk in your, or walk out into your parking lot and look around the parking lot. Are the cars that are in your parking lot representative of the types of cars that you want to attract to your business? Because that's what you want out in front of your shop. If you have cars that's where they came to die, you need to get those cars out of there. Have them impounded, tow them away, put them behind the shop, get rid of them somehow. You got clients that owe you bills that they're never going to get paid for. Call them up and say, Merry Christmas, come get your car because it's costing you more money than you will ever make from that customer paying you. Get that crap out of your parking lot. Make your parking lot look great. Does your building need to be pressure washed? Like, people will excuse an old building, but they will not excuse a dirty, nasty building. You get the point of what I'm saying. So, when you look at these things, at all of these things, when you're sitting in your waiting area as if you were a customer, when you're in the bathroom as if you were a customer, when you're looking at your parking lot as if you're pulling up to it the first time, does what you see, is it representative of how you want people to view your shop? And is this the brand that you want people to think of? Kim and I just recorded a podcast with Michael Doherty. He was one of my service advisors at my shop when we owned Peak Automotive. And it brought back a lot of memories. We talked about how our service advisors wore dress shirts and ties. And we used to get so many comments about that. We were known as the Triangle's most female friendly shop, and we had a brand to uphold. Some of you might have an unimpressive building and you feel limited as to what you can do. One of my favorite articles is an article in Ratchet and Wrench magazine. It's about McCart's Auto Center. McCart's Auto Center is spelled MCCART''S Auto Center. Just go do a Google search for Ratchet and Wrench, McCart's Auto Center, and it'll come up. I'm also going to have the link put in the show notes here. But they did an impressive makeover on their building, both inside and out. They talked about how they would often have customers that would come in for the first time and they would say, I've driven by here for years and I never noticed your business. And it's because they were just this typical tan metal building in an industrial kind of area. There was nothing that made them stand out. There was nothing that made anyone recognize them. And the makeover that they did on this place is just incredible. Go look at the pictures. We're finally to the point that you probably thought you were coming here to begin with, and that is, how can your traditional brand assets set your shop apart? So those things that you traditionally think of as branding, they can differentiate your shop from all of the other shops in the area. But let's start with your name, okay? Most people don't think of the name as part of the brand, but the name is arguably the most important part of the brand. In the last year, I've spoken to 2 different shop owners who need to change the name of their shop because it's no longer applicable to them, or at least it no longer represents who they really are. In one case, this shop has been around for 25 years, and there's a newer business in town that it's a car. The other business is a car lot, and it has a very similar name to their name. And that car lot has gotten a really bad reputation. And people associate this car lot with this auto repair shop when they have nothing to do with each other except that the name is similar and they're in the same town. Now, this is a serious case of needing to differentiate. The other shop is a shop that started out as a performance engine rebuilder, and now they're doing full service auto repair. And the name of their business is directly related to performance engines. You see, the name of your business says a lot, and it is the most important part of your brand. Does your business name tell people anything about your business? I've seen shops with names that are as generic as it can get, and others that have done a great job at working their unique selling proposition right into the name. I'm going to give you a few examples of each. Now, I'm going to give you some examples of boring and generic names. I'm not going to say the actual name of the shop because I'm not here on this podcast to call them out. And honestly, just because the name of their business is boring and generic doesn't mean that it's a bad name. It's just that that name does nothing to differentiate them. So, this is a pretty typical one. There's hundreds of shops out there that are going to be named like this, and it is the owner's last name, Auto Repair. So if this were my shop, it would be Walker's Auto Repair. Or the city name, Auto Repair. I live in Hammond, Louisiana. So if it were my shop and that's how I named it, it would be Hammond Auto Repair. Now, that being said, that can be very good for search engine optimization. Okay. So don't knock it. I'm just saying that it doesn't do anything to differentiate it. And then another one would be first name mechanical services. Okay. These are all actual shops that I know of that I was thinking of when I put this together. But again, I don't want to say their name on the podcast. And there's a bunch of you right now that are probably listening to this thinking that I'm talking about your shop because it's so typical for a shop to be named this way. Remember, there's nothing inherently wrong with these names. These names can be very good. If I have a great reputation as a mechanic and my shop is named Walker's Auto Repair, then maybe I want to associate my name with the shop. If the most important thing to me is SEO and I need to let people know the city that my shop is in, then I might name it something like Hammond Auto Repair. Now I'm going to give you some names, like examples of great names that differentiate. And these are actual shops. These are people that I know in the industry, and these are names that you will probably recognize. All right. The first one is Honest Wrenches. The second one that I'm going to talk about is Concierge European. And the third one I'll mention is Tokyo Automotive. So you can see that the typical names, they really tell you nothing except that they're an auto repair shop, whereas the others, they tell you in the name what you can expect from them. If I go to a shop named Honest Wrenches, what do I expect from them? I expect honesty. And what is the one thing that people fear the most out of an auto repair shop is they fear getting lied to and screwed at the auto repair shop. So if I am if I am saying the name of my shop is Honest Wrenches, which by the way, that shop probably everyone listening to this has heard of Honest Wrenches owned by Travis Troy. They know that this is an amazing shop that's always getting awards and everything for the stuff that they're doing. All right. Concierge European. What would I expect from them? I would expect a concierge experience when I take my car to them. The thing is if I go there and I don't get that, because I don't know the owner of that shop, actually. I know of the shop, but I don't know the owner of it. But I would expect a concierge experience. And if I don't get that, I'm going to be disappointed. So you have to live up to your name, just like Honest Wrenches has to live up to their name. The last one I'll mention is Tokyo Automotive. What would I expect there? I would expect a shop that specializes in Japanese vehicles, and that's exactly what Tokyo Automotive is. All right, so we talked about the name. Let's talk about the logo. Your logo is a visual interpretation of your shop. Does your logo say about your shop what you want it to? Now, before I get too far into this one, I'm going to go back to what I was reminding you about just a minute ago. We are talking about differentiation because I'm going to talk about some typical logos in a minute. And again, I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with a typical logo. I'm just saying that they don't necessarily differentiate. So often in the auto repair space, we see shop logos that they're the silhouette of a car, a wrench, gears or checkered flags, pistons, and like all kinds of stuff. And the truth is that these are recognizable images that relate well to auto repair. So they can actually make really great logos for auto repair. And I've seen that executed really, really well. But they don't differentiate. In fact, there's a particular car silhouette that it must be in a popular clip art program or something because I've seen it used so many times. And you probably know the one that I'm talking about. When we were talking about outward appearance above, I talked about McCart's Auto Center. There's another thing I want you to go look at. So again, you can Google Ratchet and Wrench McCart's Auto Center, or you can go into the show notes and there will be a link to this article. But go look at the giant logo on the facade of their building. It's clean, it's different, it's not a typical auto repair logo. It has a high end feel to it. You'll also notice that it can be used easily in a square profile picture or a round profile picture, as well as a long horizontal layout, which is something that you really need to think about when you're creating your logo. It's also not busy. It can be embroidered easily, which is something that people don't think about a lot when they're doing their logo. So it's a great logo. Now, I recently saw a logo that manages to cross the lines well because it has a silhouette of a car, but this shop specializes in Teslas, and the silhouette is a side view of the back half of a Tesla Model 3, which is pretty recognizable. This is one of my previous technicians, his shop now, and he's a client now, and it's a very cool logo. So think about these things when you're creating your logo. Color theory and font choice also play highly into how your logo represents your business. One color may exude a feeling of stress while another exudes calmness. One color might have a childish feel while another has a professional feel. You need to choose colors that reinforce your brand's focus and the overall vibe of your business. Things like red, for example, is representative of excitement. Orange, and these are not my opinions. These are things that come from the graphic design world, where they've said, it's color theory. But red is representative of excitement. Orange is representative of confidence. Yellow is representative of happiness. Green is representative of freshness. Blue is representative of trust. I've also heard that green is representative of money, and I've heard that red is representative of anger. So there's a lot of different color theories, and you need to look at all of those when you're going to get into that level of detail into your logo. So there's a lot that goes into a logo and making sure that it represents you well and that it differentiates your business. The next thing we're going to talk about is your brand message. This is the final piece of the traditional brand as far as how we're going to talk about it today and how it can differentiate you from your competition. This is the easiest and most direct way to differentiate through conventional branding because you're literally telling your audience how you're different. You need to think differently about your messaging, though, because most shop owners want to talk about their years of experience, their certifications, their warranties, and the things that are important to them. And you think, well, Brian, my 40 years of experience absolutely differentiates me. And the certifications that I have absolutely differentiates me. And the warranty that I have absolutely differentiates me. And it does. It does. But these are not the most important things to the clients. You definitely want to have that information there. You want to have it as part of your brand message. And I'm going to tell you how you go about figuring that out. But they're not the most important. The most important is going to directly relate to your clients. So when you're creating your brand message, you need to remember that your clients have a problem, and that problem is what you need to hone into when you're speaking to them. And you need to dig a little deeper than the surface level problem. Sure, on the surface, the problem is that the car is broken. But the real problem could be that they can't get to work. They can't get their kids to school, or they don't trust their car anymore. The problem could be that they can't afford an expensive repair. It could be that they don't trust auto repair shops. You need to figure out what the main concern is for most of your clients, because the main concern will not be the same for all of your clients. But you figure out what the main concern is for most of your clients and you hone in on that. You press into the pain and you make it feel real. And then you tell your clients how you're going to solve that problem for them. Now, I told you that I would tell you how to figure that out. You've heard me talk about the book Building a Story Brand. That is what this entire book is about crafting your brand message. So go read the book Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Even if you don't like to read, this is an easy book to read. If you really don't like to read, get it on audiobook and listen to it. This book will tell you everything that you need to know about creating your brand message. It will change the way that you think about every word that is on your website and on your billboards and in your advertisements and everything else. It is one of the best marketing books that I have ever read. And no, it is not the only way to craft messaging, but it is my opinion that it is the best and most effective way. to do that. So, as we wrap all of this up, you can't underestimate the importance of differentiating your shop from your competition. Trying to compete in a sea of sameness is a race to the bottom. Your shop, your team, your culture, and your brand are different from every other shop out there. And your job is to learn how to express that to the world, or at least to your local community. I also hope I was able to get you to start thinking differently about what your brand really is, because it matters so much when you need to stand out from the crowd. It is so much more than a logo and fonts and colors. It is the vibe that your business puts out into the world. It is the way that people think of you. It is anything that when someone sees it, it makes them think of your company. So if you need help with your marketing, and look, it's very rare that I put a call to action in these podcasts, because I want these podcasts to be about learning, and I also want to really focus in on our sponsor. And I understand that you know this, but if you need help with your marketing, that is what we do at Shop Marketing Pros. We would love to talk to you to see if we can help you to build a brand for your shop that stands out ahead and above the other shops in your area. You can schedule a discovery call at shopmarketingpros.com. There is a button in the header that says book a discovery call, and we would love to talk to you. So, thank you for listening in to this episode of the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast. I want to thank our sponsors, Repair Pal, for sponsoring this episode and all of the other episodes that we've done. Uh, we could not do this without them. When we had our shop, we were a Repair Pal shop, and it was a great way that we were able to get new business for our shop. Remember, we are just one of a handful of podcasts on the Aftermarket Radio Network. You can find the others at aftermarketradionetwork.com. I hope that you'll listen in again next week. And until then, go fill those bays.